Hello! Welcome to Baseball Insiders and welcome to the winter meetings. Whether you're waking up with coffee or chugging a noon beer, we are happy to have you. I'm Adam Weinrib, joined as I am every time we go live here by fan-sided MLB insider Robert Murray. I am at home, not telling you where that is. He is in Orlando, finally, at the winter meetings. I think we're calling this day one. It's been kind of confusing when the winter meetings start, but last night was just a warm-up. They were just slapping Don Mattingly in the face, telling him he wasn't getting into the Hall of Fame. Now the fun begins. Rumors, trades, players got to find their new teams. GM's got to get creative. Everybody's talking, and here to help us out and translate it is Robert Murray from Orlando. Waking up. Robert, how you doing?
I've had better mornings, to say the least. I'm running on fumes. I had a travel snafu yesterday where I was trying to obviously get to Orlando, but my plane got rerouted to Miami. Long story short, I traveled for about 14 to 15 hours yesterday, but I'm here and my notebook is full, even after one short little sprint through the lobby. Seemingly got pulled in different directions by everybody, which is always fun and welcome. So good to be here. How are you doing, Adam? Happy Monday. Or is it Monday? Yeah, it's Monday.
Yeah, it's Monday. Long story short, he's still in Miami, but he's picking things up from over 150 miles away. No, he made it to Orlando. I'm hanging here, running point on the ground. Again, if you're just joining us, we're going to go live Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday this week. We've got a lot of extra shows on the books, giving you daily updates from the winter meetings, the most fun time of year. Look, it goes hand in hand with the trade deadline. Whether you love this or you love that more, I don't know. I'm not one to tell you how you should feel. But if you love offseason transactions, this is the place to be. And I know many of you joined our Discord this week to get updates and news and notes between the shows. Please join us in there. Hit that join button below. You get that link to the Discord. Join at the Rumor Mill tier or the All-Star tier. There'll be a private Q&A in there eventually. Obviously, a lot we have to schedule this week. But that's where you can ask Robert and I questions between shows, get an update on active rumors, and just talk to your friends. It's a really fun community in there. I like to hang out even when we don't have info to drop. But here we are. We're going to be answering your questions, giving you all we have from Robert's notebook. Today, as the winter meetings begin, over the weekend, to summarize what we already had, not all that much went down, thankfully, because I was a little out of pocket on Saturday. But there was a Zac Gallen Cubs rumor, probably the only major story to hit. There was a Bob Nightingale tweet that sort of insinuated it was done, followed by a Jeff Passan update that said no deal. And then, hey, people are making it obvious that there's a connection there for multiple seasons, but nothing finished yet, nothing crossing the finish line. What's the latest on Gallen, the Cubs, Gallen's market in general, and just that whole situation?
Yeah, he was never close to a deal with the Cubs or anyone. Honestly, like the only deal that he was close to was he was on the verge of getting married. He was, I believe, in Mexico for a wedding. I believe the first report on that was actually by Brian Cashman. So what a start to the podcast here. But Gallen has never been close to signing with anybody. And that being said, though, the Cubs are interested in Gallen. They are looking for starting pitching for sure. But nowhere close with that. I would not rule out a reunion with the Diamondbacks, although I think Merrill Kelly is also an option there as well. And if I had to guess and who's more likely to go back to Arizona, I would think probably Kelly. But either way, Gallen's drawing plenty of interest, in a down year from what he's previously done has not deterred teams at all.
Yes, it was his wedding, and shout out to Brian Cashman doing the hard work uncovering who is getting married, when, and where. And I guess that's all he's really up to so far. We'll get into that in a bit. I see your questions and comments. Look, hey, just base level, day one, you got in a little later than you'd hoped to, but you still had plenty of time to soak in info today. What's been the vibe after your arrival? What have you picked up already, just sort of wandering the grounds, touching base with people?
Yeah, I've talked to different teams and also different agents as well. And it's also sounds like they've also gone through a bunch of travel snafus as well. So everyone's kind of hitting the ground running today. Running on fumes is the best way I would describe it. But that being said, I've heard of different teams meeting with other teams a bunch. I've heard of agents who are meeting with teams. So like things are happening here for sure. And the market that really seems to be aggressive and heating up right now is the pitching market, specifically the bullpen market. And Soroka came off the board today by going to the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's actually going to be a starting pitcher in Arizona. Nice signing by that swing there for sure. But I would really expect the bullpen market to really heat up and continue to do its thing. And I've heard of some different popular guys here. Tyler Rogers is someone who I believe is very popular around the league. And I think he'll end up being a guy who is going to end up getting a pretty hefty multi-year contract there. Obviously, Pete Fairbanks is drawing plenty of interest as well. Kyle Finnegan, I continue to hear him connected to Detroit among other teams as well. So there's a bunch of players who are available right now, but that's the area of the market that I'm really kind of focusing in on right now.
And yeah, maybe not what folks wanted to hear quite yet, just because of all the high-profile names. But there's a lot of tone setting going on. And we started the meetings. Tyler Rogers, by the way, going for a hefty package shouldn't surprise anybody, given what he was dealt for at last year's deadline. A package that surprised a lot of people. Now it's time to pay the piper, and I think teams are similarly in love with what Rogers brings and his skill set. I know that the name that we have said most often on this podcast is most likely to go early or go quickly is Kyle Schwarber, and he's really the only big name that we've heard anything about to start the meetings. Ken Rosenthal's column last night brought up a rumor about the Pirates offering him $100 million plus a 4-year offer. No specifics other than that, and that's certainly the bare minimum of what it would take to get him interested in Pittsburgh, given the other destinations. He's got close ties to Boston, close ties to Philly, of course, close ties to Cincinnati. The Pirates are going to have to make a lot of noise and rattle their saber to even get in that room. But that's the latest that we've heard, that the Pirates have whether they get him or not, they likely won't, but that is certainly a hell of an offer, and more substantial than anything we heard from the Pirates and Josh Naylor. What are you hearing on Schwarber, and what do you make of the fact that we heard about this Pirates offer first before anything else?
Yeah, I mean, this would easily be the biggest commitment in Pirates history as far as a free agent goes. And the biggest one before this was Francisco Liriano on a $39 million contract. So this would be a huge change for them. And it signals exactly what we've been talking about all offseason, is that the Pirates are very serious about upgrading this team, specifically with the offense. That being said, do I expect the Pirates to get Schwarber? No. I think it's likely they end up going and they end up getting somebody else, and that Schwarber ends up either going back to Philly, or Boston's involved, Cincinnati's involved too. I mean, there's a bunch of teams involved with Schwarber here. And specifically with Schwarber, I've alluded to it in stories on this podcast, and I'll say it again for my time here as well. Everybody loves Kyle Schwarber as a player, as a person, as a leader. Everything about Schwarber people want. He's a culture setter for sure. And he's exactly – I come back to what Craig Breslow was saying at the GM meetings, is that he, obviously flexibility is good at the DH spot, but if you have an opportunity where you can have a David Ortiz type, you don't think twice about having him in the DH role. Schwarber's a different player than Big Papi, obviously, but he's an elite player. And if you can add 56 homers to your lineup, if you can add that leadership to the clubhouse, I don't think you blink twice. And if I'm Boston, if I'm Philadelphia, if I'm the Pirates, if I'm the Reds, I absolutely go after Schwarber. And I give it everything I got. But as far as the Pirates go, I mean, we're going to see them connected to Polanco, with O'Hearn, Okamoto, a bunch of other players as well. They're going to add offense at some point. I'm convinced of that. I don't expect it to be Schwarber though.
But I think what gets fans excited is they probably don't expect Schwarber either. They probably don't expect to make real noise on Pete Alonso. But if they've got $100 million plus to offer Kyle Schwarber, and they're looking at a 4-year commitment, which is something they just don't do, then what is their excuse not to bring in Polanco, Okamoto, Ryan O'Hearn? I mean, it takes two to tango. These players have to also agree to come to Pittsburgh, and then that's the part I think gets lost in the shuffle sometimes. Just because you have money to spend doesn't mean you can spend it. You need to find the right person. You need to find the players who want to be a part of that. But that's why Pirates fans are so enthusiastic.
Exactly. But that being said, the thing is with the Pirates, they have Paul Skenes to sell. They have that pitching staff to sell. There's reasons to come to Pittsburgh right now. And if you come to Pittsburgh, you're surrounded by that pitching staff. And let's say you're a Schwarber or a Polanco or just any of these other types. And you're the reason why the Pirates get back to postseason baseball, you're going to be a hero in Pittsburgh forever. I mean, getting to the postseason is one thing, but also advancing too. They have the pieces there for sure. They need to add in free agency. It seems like they absolutely are planning to, either free agency or trade, I should say. But I really like what I'm hearing from the Pirates right now. It's just on them to back it up with actual moves here.
Get into the comments. And by the way, I just love our commenters. This is the only podcast where you just get people being like Nathan Lucas for Chris Bubich. And I have to be like, I've never thought about either of those two people being exchanged for one another. But yeah, I guess that's interesting. I really appreciate everybody weighing in. We know we've got a lot of fandoms to touch on here. I got to go to the Yankees questions here. Brian Cashman was basically begging for a righty bat yesterday. He basically said this lineup is too left-handed, which makes me think, okay, probably shopping for bench pieces or platoon partners. Also makes me wonder how serious they could be on Cody Bellinger, given the fact that he is a lefty. Cashman is out here openly complaining about how left-handed the lineup is and how he needs to find a chance for Dominguez or Spencer Jones. And we know Bellinger's market's going to be hefty. So what did you make of those comments from Cashman, and where do you think that places them in the Bellinger market?
I don't think it means anything with Bellinger because he can hit both left-handers and right-handers pretty easily. So I don't think he's necessarily I don't think that means it's unlikely that he returns. I don't necessarily know what to make of their chances with Bellinger quite yet. But as far as the rest of the team goes, like they absolutely are going to be looking for a right-handed bat, or right-handed bats, I should say. Because they need to balance out the lineup. They need to have some more diversity there for sure. But the Yankees, they're definitely going to be active looking for a hitter. And also, I mean, shoot, he even said it yesterday, and the commenter said it as well. Cashman said that they have to replace both Devin Williams and Luke Weaver, which I kind of thought that was interesting. I mean, maybe he's saying that because Weaver is a free agent. He's unsigned right now. But they picked up Duvall from the Giants at the deadline, but also David Bednar as well from the Pirates. So there's internal replacements there for sure. But they're going to be plenty active. But I keep coming back to the comment made by Steinbrenner and saying that it would be ideal for them to reduce payroll. So like, how much room does that give Cashman and that front office to operate? I don't necessarily know. But they're the big bad Yankees, so they should spend, and I hope they do.
Yeah, Cashman said something too, and Michael K said, "Hey, the payroll's going down." And Cashman was like, "If that's true, I haven't heard that. Steinbrenner wants me to bring to him everything I get. If I got something, he wants to see it. So we'll see. I do think Yankee fans need to approach this offseason in a cost-conscious manner. You can't be giving them Tucker and Imai and Bellinger at the same time. But I think they're going to keep it reasonable. They would love to reduce payroll. It's probably not going to happen. But if they miss out on Bellinger, then all of a sudden it becomes more plausible. So we'll have to keep following that.
For sure. And also the other part of this too, not to cut you off again, but let's say the Yankees cut payroll and then you have the Red Sox go out and get a big bat. And then also after getting Sonny Gray as well. And then you have the Jays continue to be active, and they've been mentioned with Kyle Tucker, with all these guys here. Like, what kind of signal would that send to that fan base? I feel like you would go into the season, and I know you wouldn't be happy, Adam. Like, you'd be going in pessimistic. I don't know. I feel like they have to do something, because if your other teams, specifically the Red Sox and the Jays, they're doing stuff and spending big. If you're the Yankees, you got to go out and spend big as well.
Yeah, right now it feels like silence. The only time there's some juice is when Sonny Gray takes him out on the other side of the rivalry. Sonny the Liar Gray.
That's crazy. Yeah. Although, like, that being said, you can't expect a guy after he gets traded to a team be like, yeah, or in a press conference, I just don't want to be here. Like, you gotta, like, that's this whole situation though is bizarre. I've never seen something.
You got the A's bullpen coach. Apparently, he told him, "Get me out of Oakland. I want to go to the Yankees." And then when he didn't get traded at the 2018 deadline, he told Brian Cashman, like, "Well, guess what? I never wanted to be here." Okay, petulant teenager. We'll see how this goes this season. We'll head to the Red Sox now. But the Red Sox 18, our friend wants to know Charrington noise. King JB, Red Sox, Pete Alonso, Alex Bregman. The Red Sox are going to be all over this. The latest we heard from Rob Bradford is that maybe the pursuit of Ketel Marte not so hot. He heard no traction this morning. But the latest on the Red Sox, that they get Oviedo before the winter meetings as well. They've now added 2 starters. Gray, stalwart veteran, Oviedo, a bit of an upside guy returning from TJ, with a fastball doing magic things when he appeared at the end of last season. But now it's time to turn their attention to bigger bats, it would seem.
Yeah, to me, the fear for the Red Sox is obviously the bats. And Schwarber is the one that I've been connecting them with all offseason, and I still stand by that. Schwarber is a great fit in Boston, but it's not just Schwarber there who's an option there. You can have Bregman, you can have Pete Alonso. I mean, I don't think we've heard them connected to Kyle Tucker yet, but we have seen them connected to Bo Bichette. And how about that for the Red Sox? If you're able to take Bichette away from one of your top rivals in baseball, and then add him to your lineup as well, and you can have him at different spots in the infield. You have him at short, second, like you name it. There's some options there for sure. But the Red Sox, I feel like we're just going to continue to hear them connected to all these big bats. I feel like they probably will add one at some point. It's just a matter of like who. But obviously things can change. You never know. But it's nice to see the Red Sox spending again, because that's I say it often. I'll say it again. It's a good thing for baseball.
There's a question here from Ryan. Does Alex Bregman have a market outside of Boston? I've wondered this myself, too. There was a note about how the Tigers' interest maybe was a little tepid, and obviously they couldn't land on anything last offseason when they tried. The Cubs saw them connected to Eugenio Suarez over the weekend. But, while we're forecasting all these big bats to Boston, trying to figure out how they balance, I mean, who else is in the Alex Bregman race? Does this eventually just end up like last year where the total's not what they wanted, but, hey, the fit matched?
Yeah, it's very possible. I mean, that it ends up going back to Boston here, but there are other teams involved here. Like one of them that we know is the Cubs. I believe Patrick Mooney of The Athletic first reported that, so good job by Patrick. But there's other teams involved in this as well, from what I understand. The fact that I can't nail down who these teams are is kind of frustrating, but there is a market outside of just Boston and Chicago. I can confidently say that.
Yeah, it's a good question from Ryan, and we'll
be tracking that.
Yeah, be tracking that throughout the week for sure, because I think the Bregman public discourse has been a little bit silent, oddly. Now, trades. Boss 2. Any noise on the Giants? Are they potentially active in the trade market? They were one of the teams that last week we talked about how they just do not want to spend at the top portion of the pitching market, but they do need pitching. You can add the Mets to that. Curiously, there was a Will Salmon report this morning that said they don't want to engage Framber Valdez, Ranger Suarez on this long-term deal, and they're reticent to spend big, blockbuster money on pitching. So that would indicate, okay, if you're talking trade market, you're looking at the Giants and Mets seeking pitchers. Any clarity or noise there?
Yeah, both of them are absolutely looking for pitching. I think that's a very fair thing to say. And the Giants, they need pitching in a big way. And we've seen the reports about them not having money or not being willing to spend at the top of the market. Like, do I buy that? Like, for sure I do. That being said, though, if there's ever a person who can convince the ownership there to spend more, I think it would be Buster Posey. So I'm not going to entirely rule it out. I'm not going to say it's likely. I would say it's pretty unlikely that they end up spending at the top of the market. But as far as what they could target here, I think the trade market absolutely makes sense for the Giants to end up targeting here. And there's names, I mean, Bubic with the Royals. I saw someone there. Actually, now Cole just ended up mentioning that idea. I think it's a smart idea. Freddie Peralta is a name who I think makes sense for the Giants, but again, do I expect the Brewers to trade him? I don't know. Maybe the offers get so good that they end up moving him. But there's options on the trade market there for sure. The one player I do not expect them to move is Bryce Eldridge. I've seen that buzz out there on Twitter. I'd be really surprised if they moved him. Like, he was an untouchable in the Devers trade, and I just can't see them being in any hurry whatsoever, especially with Matt Chapman getting older. Like, trading a young potential face of the franchise for a rental pitcher, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Now, I like Ryan Garcia's comment here. Will the Cubs entertain a Nico Hoerner trade if they add a third baseman? So does the Bregman Suarez, does that have a ripple effect on Chicago's infield? What do the Cubs do next if they do splurge for a big free agent?
I have a hard time trading Nico Hoerner. I would be kind of surprised if they did that. He's cheap. He's someone who is like homegrown. He's a player that they really like in that organization. I would not be in a hurry to move him whatsoever. I would expect teams to ask about him for sure, because the infield market this offseason really isn't overly that great. But yeah, I'd be surprised if that ended up happening there for sure. And then Endo, man, asking about Jose Barrios with the Giants. I just mentioned they don't have that much money to spend, and he's got a big contract. So I don't see that one happening.
That'll be a tough one to move. What about our Angels fan friends? Got a lot of Angels fans asking what Perry is up to. Could this be a loud winter meetings for the Angels, or are they waiting on the Anthony Rendon resolution?
I don't think they're waiting on the Rendon resolution here. I expect them to pursue pitching, and I could see them adding a pitcher here for sure. Do I know of anything close though? Like at this point, no. Doesn't mean nothing. That doesn't mean something isn't close, but if there is, I haven't heard it. But pitching seems like a focus there. They'll continue looking for offense as well. But pitching is the one that I've heard the most prominently there with the Angels.
Appreciate that comment, of course, and all you Angels fans. There are definitely a bunch of Royals and Cardinals rumors. Brendan Donovan, Noah Cameron. Any noise on that connection? Does that interstate rivalry eventually turn into a trade this week? What does Donovan's market feel like right now to you as well?
Donovan's market is extensive. There's a lot of teams that are involved in that, and I wouldn't be surprised whatsoever if there's a trade. Have I heard the Royals mentioned with the Cardinals? I can't say that I have. But that being said, like I've seen it with John Heyman today, and I've heard it from other places as well. The Royals are tied to a bunch of different outfield bats, and like Harrison Bader, I think he's going to do pretty well in free agency this year, from what I can gather here. Sounds like he's got a pretty good market, and people really like what he provides defensively, but also like if he's able to stay healthy, there's upside there with the bat. So I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up getting a nice multi-year deal this offseason. But again, going back to the Royals and Cardinals potential trade buzz, I can't say that's something I've heard.
Anything else in your notebook that I have not mentioned yet? Also, Harry Ford, we had a top 50 prospect change hands this weekend. I can't forget to mention that as well. The Mariners probably looking for a new backup catcher.
Yeah, that was a really interesting one. That was not something that I had on my radar. And then all of a sudden I got a call about it as I was packing up to come to Orlando. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. And checked, and it turns out that Harry Ford was indeed going to the Nationals. And I really like that move by the Nats. I think that's a really nice ad for them. It gives them the option there it gives them a long-term catcher, or at least like a definitive option there for sure. I don't think the Nats are done by any means. The Mackenzie Gore buzz is definitely like it's there. CJ Abrams, as Ken Rosenthal said today, has been getting a bunch of hits as well. They're going to be probably the most interesting team to watch here in the trade market because they hold a lot of dominoes and some really freaking good ones as well.
Well, we appreciate everybody reaching out and making this an exciting first episode of the Winter Meeting. Stay tuned tomorrow, same time, live on the same channel, noon Eastern. Robert and I are going to be breaking it down. Bring us your questions. Who knows? The show might even be a little bit longer. Let's gather some more intel. Until then, take care, everybody. We'll see you back here on the Baseball Insiders.
Thank you.